watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome to Law Talk on Germantown Municipal Television. My name is Vince Perryman. I'm a local attorney with the law offices of J. Vince Perryman. Each month, Law Talk focuses on a wide range of legal issues and topics. On today's show, we will discuss the role and responsibilities of a Judicial Commissioner. With us now is Shelby County Judicial Commissioner David Poole. David, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, the first question that I think many people have when they think of a commissioner in Shelby County, they think of the county commission. So, a judicial commissioner versus a judge or a committee, what is it?
Well, a judicial commissioner is, it's like a magistrate. We are members of the judiciary, but we're not full-fledged judges. We're not elected judges. Judicial commissioners they're a creature of statute. We do a lot of work in the criminal courts in Shelby County to hopefully alleviate a lot of the roles that the judge has to play, an elected judge, such as signing warrants, search warrants, arrest warrants, setting bonds. Shelby County has the highest criminal court docket in Tennessee, and there are 10 judicial commissioners. So we have a lot of work to do. We do a great deal of work for the criminal courts in Shelby County.
And when you say it's a creature of statute, for the folks that may not understand that, it's that the General Assembly has passed a statutory provision in the Tennessee Code that gives the ability to appoint magistrates or judicial commissioners to handle certain responsibilities. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
And like I said, in Tennessee we have 10. The way it works in Shelby County is initially, if the criminal court judges ask for a judicial commissioner or a position to be filled, it goes to the county commission to decide who to appoint for a term of up to 1 to 4 years. And after that judicial commissioner's term has expired under their county commission appointment, every reappointment thereafter is at the discretion of the General Sessions judges.
Oh, okay. So as far as on the initial process of that, how does that work when one of these positions comes open?
Well, we're county employees. So when a judicial commissioner position comes open, there's an application process. You have to be an attorney in Shelby County to be a judicial commissioner. So you fill out a form, an employment form, and you submit various documents that show your eligibility for the position. And then you start talking to county commissioners to see if any of them will support you for the position. Getting your ducks in a row, getting letters of recommendation, things of that nature. I think I may have asked you for one when I was seeking the appointment.
You may have. I think a lot of us put something into the different county commissioners as far as to say, hey, this is somebody you should support.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And I know like in the federal courts, if I'm before a judge there, all parties have got to agree to allow the magistrate to hear it. Does it work similar to that, or what's the?
No, not necessarily. Of course, when someone's arrested and they're processed through 201 Poplar, they don't have a choice. They see the judicial commissioner or the police officers when they're bringing someone in that they've arrested.
Okay.
Their documents that they have, their affidavit is reviewed by a judicial commissioner, the affidavit that tells what the accused allegedly did. And so the judicial commissioner reads that to see whether there's probable cause to hold that person. So no, there's no, if you're in front of a judicial commissioner, that's what you get. Now, judicial commissioners can't have a trial.
Okay.
We don't adjudicate criminal matters.
And of course, I come from more of a civil area, so like the criminal realm, other than a traffic ticket, is foreign to me.
Right.
So because in federal court, what I'm thinking of with the magistrates there is civil matters.
Right.
And I don't know how it behaves in a criminal matter in federal court. But anyways, so as far as its bonds and warrants, what else?
All right. Basically, in Shelby County, the judicial commissioners serve three separate roles, I guess, or positions. Well, the one role is the Judicial Commissioner, but we do three basic things. The first is we man the jail 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that when a police officer has a search warrant that they would like for us to sign and be served, or an arrest warrant, or a seizure of assets under a subsequent DUI, or narcotics arrest, or a prostitution charge, or things of that nature, they need to see somebody, so they go to see the Judicial Commissioner at 201 Poplar in the jail. So that's the role that we play the majority of the time. We man the jail to sign those type of documents, to review and sign those type of documents, to review them. Now, if they don't meet legal muster under a constitutional standard or a statutory standard, then we're not allowed to sign. We use the same process that a judge would use. We consider what factors we must to determine whether we can sign that legal document. The second role that the Judicial Commissioners play is to man the domestic violence room, the order of protection room. I say domestic violence. Now, Judge Turner in Division 10 of General Sessions, that's the domestic violence courtroom for criminal domestic violence proceedings. But orders of protection, as you know, are civil in nature, and the Judicial Commissioners man their own courtroom for orders of protection. We issue the ex parte orders of protection, which are the temporary orders based upon accusations of stalking or domestic abuse. And then we hear those petitions to see whether they should turn into orders of protection that aren't temporary in nature, that are 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years, depending on a certain set of criteria.
Right.
And the third thing we do is if the General Sessions criminal court judges are absent for any reason, illness, vacation, judicial conference, then we man their courtrooms to keep their docket flowing.
Okay. So when you're manning the courtroom like that, what are some of the things that you guys will be doing?
Well, we arraign people. So when people come before the court initially, their initial appearance, you know, a defendant will call it an initial appearance most of the time, and we'll call it an arraignment, because we're telling that person what they're charged with, what their exposure is as far as jail time or fines, discuss their bond with them if a bond's been set, if they're in custody, and apprise them of their rights, of course. That's the first thing, is to tell them their rights. And then instruct them to come back with an attorney, or whatever else, what other, for instance, some courts, if they're a driving charge, there might be a way for them to have that matter dismissed under you know, a nolle prosequi, a null process we call it in the business. So we tell them their rights and tell them the charges and instruct them to come back with an attorney or come back for another type of disposition if one's available.
Okay. And yeah, so it's one of those that basically when people are thinking about the criminal justice system, you got to keep the wheels moving, and you guys are aiding that all along. So when we return, we'll continue our discussion about the roles of a Judicial Commissioner. Please stay with us.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed all that.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Vincent Perryman, and you are watching Law Talk. Joining us on our show is Shelby County Judicial Commissioner David Poole. We're discussing the responsibilities of a judicial commissioner. David, before the break, we basically had painted with a wide brush of all the things that a judicial commissioner can do. So in all of this, what are some of the things that you're seeing? You know, because occasionally I'll get a call here or there where I know it's over my head and I'll have to refer it out to a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
You know, the other day I had somebody bring me a citation in lieu of arrest where they were going 40 over on, I don't know, Hacks Cross or something like that.
Right.
So what are the sort of things that you see as a judicial commissioner?
Well, we talked about being in the annex. The judicial commissioner manning the annex in 8-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so in that role, we see a lot of arrest warrants and a lot of misdemeanor citations like the one you just referred to. The most common charges I see on the misdemeanor citations are driving with license suspended, revoked, or canceled. The most common charges I see on arrest warrants would be assault, mainly domestic assault, but assault, theft of property $1,000 or less, shoplifting, and possession of controlled substance, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and a lot of times the legislatures have made those crimes, which normally simple possessions, normally a misdemeanor, made them felonies by making the amount that one has to possess for it to be with intent to manufacture, deliver, or sell, making that amount quite low. And so whether that person's actually a dealer or not, there's a lot of dispute about that. But so those are the most common charges: the driving charges, the assault charges, the theft of property charges, and the drug charges. So
as far as I think about that citation in lieu of arrest that I had, because this was I don't know whether he was a college-age kid or what. His parents called me and he had doctored the thing to where like he had actually marked out his report date to be processed. If somebody's got one of those citations in lieu of arrest where it gives you a report date to go to the annex and be booked and processed, and they miss that, do you guys ever wind up having to do the issuing of the warrants for failure to be processed?
Well, procedurally what generally happens is when someone misses their booking and processing date, as long as they make their initial court date, then they should be fine. When they make their initial court date, the prosecutor will has their paperwork in front of them, and an entire jacket that has various pieces of paper that are part of that particular case, and they'll notice if that person didn't go to booking and processing, and they'll say to the judge, "Your Honor, Mr. So-and-so failed to make booking and processing," and they can either do something if that person has a record, they can either link that person's records and information to that person with just a simple order, or if they don't have a history, a criminal history, they can have the judge sign an order right then for that person to report to records and identification afterwards and be booked and processed after that court date on the same day.
Okay. Yeah, because it's one of those that, like, to me, what goes on down there in 201 is kind of a mystery, just because I don't practice there.
Right.
You know, so
it's important for somebody to make that booking and processing date. It's not trivial. It's certainly important. But if they miss it, unless they keep missing dates, they're not going to go to jail for missing their records and identification, their booking and processing appointment.
And I would assume, like,
unless everybody sees this program and decides they don't have to go because I said it's not important, then of course
that's a bad idea.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, because it's one of those too. I think the other thing is if you've done this multiple times or something of that nature and the judge is familiar with you, it's just gonna be a harder road for you. That's like anything with life.
Right.
You know, it's like a client who stiffed me on a portion of the bill several times, want to come back and have more leeway. I'm not going to give it to them.
Sure.
But so with the Judicial Commissioner on there, Now, you guys have the domestic violence orders of protection on that. How does that process work?
All right. Well, if someone feels like they're a victim of domestic abuse or stalking, they can go to the Family Safety Center on Madison Avenue, right in Midtown, very close to McLean, maybe close to Belvedere.
I'm not even sure where it's at.
It's right in that Midtown area. It's yeah. Anyway, between McLean, I think, and Belvedere, just down the street from Zinni's or Frida's, and they can speak to an intake person there and determine whether they'll help them determine whether there's been some abuse, whether it falls under, whether they're eligible for an order of protection. Those orders of protection are sent to the annex electronically. A judicial commissioner reads them and determines whether an ex parte order of protection should be issued.
Okay.
And that's, if it's issued, then immediately the petitioner is protected and the respondent is restrained. There's an order that prohibits them from communicating with.
And we may have somebody that's going ex parte. What is that?
Ex parte. It means that it hasn't come before, both parties have not appeared before a judicial officer yet. It's just someone claiming that they've been abused, and maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but they go to the Family Safety Center and ask for help, say, I want to file a petition for this order of protection. So did the petitioner. Now, that petition, if it's granted by the Judicial Commissioner, must be served on the respondent, the person who's allegedly committing the abuse or the stalking. And a hearing is set, a very quick hearing, usually within 2 weeks. And the petitioner and the respondent are to report to the hearing room in 201 Poplar, where the Judicial Commissioners hear the case and determine whether an order of protection should be issued, a full order of protection.
Okay. And then in the hearing, once, say, an ex parte is granted, or even if it's not granted, there's a hearing set.
Yes.
In that hearing, how does that process work? I mean, is it like any other court hearing, or?
Yeah,
And we're out of time on this segment, so we'll cover that in a moment when we return from our break. We'll talk more with David Poole about being a judicial commissioner when we return. Stay with us.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. With us now is David Poole, and we're talking about his position as Shelby County Judicial Commissioner. David, before the break, we had just gotten into how the hearings were going to work in sort of the orders of protection hearings, which is domestic violence or stalking or somebody's threatened you. And now, when a hearing is set, that hearing is like any other court hearing, right?
That's right. It is an adversarial hearing. The parties can present evidence, well, they should present evidence either way to support their case as a petitioner or a respondent. And if the petitioner proves by a preponderance of the evidence that there's been conduct which is prohibited, either stalking or abuse, then the Judicial Commissioner will grant the order of protection generally for a year. If the order of protection is violated, it can be extended for up to 5 years or 10 years. And if the order of protection is violated after one's issued, it's bad for the respondent, obviously. You know, violation of bond conditions in domestic abuse or domestic violence cases or domestic assault cases, violations of order protections, they become more serious criminal charges. They graduate sometimes from misdemeanors to felonies.
And I think that the point that I always like to drive home about the orders of protection, a lot of people they always think, well, I can go down there and get it myself, I can do this, and kind of function as their own attorney, except in that courtroom, they're going to be held to the standard of an attorney. So the Tennessee rules of evidence and procedure and those sorts of things, they apply.
They certainly do need to have their attorney. Okay. You know, an order of protection on one's record is no less damaging to one's career than a conviction for domestic assault. But if someone has done those acts that are prohibited by statute, they certainly should be subject to reprimand, to a consequence for that. So it's very serious, and you should certainly have an attorney as a petitioner or a respondent.
Yeah, because so many times I'll be sitting in there where it'll be an order of protection that's tied to a divorce I'm handling, and I'll be watching sort of what's going on in that division, and you'll have somebody asking for an order of protection and somebody defending, and 9 times out of 10, one party's got an attorney, the other one doesn't.
Right.
And the one without the attorney gets their lunch eaten.
That's right.
And I think the other piece of it, there is either a statutory provision where attorney's fees can be awarded for these, so it's one that people that are seeking an order of protection and have a legitimate basis for it, they shouldn't be afraid to go get an attorney, because there can be some recouping of what they're expending.
Yeah, that's right. They shouldn't be afraid. Now, they should not be afraid. And first of all, I want to preface anything I say by saying that any type of assault is absolutely heinous. And even a judge, even being a neutral, will have to admit that violations of law are punishable and should be punished. On the other hand, false accusations are also heinous. Now, if a judicial commissioner finds by clear and convincing evidence that a petitioner has falsely accused someone of abuse or stalking, then fees can be shifted as well. And you and I know in the civil forum that that's a difficult thing for a judge to decide, whether a fee should be shifted, whether attorney's fees should be awarded. And that's difficult. Even when there are contractual fee shifting provisions, judges are hesitant to do that. So certainly important. You definitely need to have an attorney, but don't be scared. Like you're saying, I think you're right. Don't be scared. Sometimes there are opportunities where your fees can be paid. There are opportunities sometimes if a petitioner wins and the respondent is ordered out of the house and the petitioner has no income, sometimes the commissioner can order the rent be paid, the utilities be paid, use of a vehicle, things of that nature.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing with it too for people to know is on those orders of protection, I believe they're appealable over to circuit court. Is that correct?
They are appealable. Now, you also mentioned divorce. If during an order of protection hearing an attorney comes in and says, you know, Your Honor, we've filed a divorce and the petition has not been granted yet, then that needs to be transferred to the circuit or chancery court for that judge to handle. On the other hand, if an order of protection is issued and a divorce is subsequently filed, that order of protection is valid until it's modified by the circuit or chancery court judge. So just because someone files a divorce doesn't mean that order of protection does not exist.
Right, and some viewers may be sitting there going, well, that's ridiculous. I should get my order of protection from the people that know about order of protection as opposed to the judge that's handling my divorce. But what I would say to them is the judge that's handling your divorce, they probably want to hear all those facts, because that's going to start off the divorce proceedings where one side is going to be in a position that's superior to the other side.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. If that person is sitting there believing that I want to go to the order of protection court instead of the divorce court, I want to go to the order of protection court instead of the divorce court. Actually, circuit court I think originally had jurisdiction over orders of protection before I was an attorney. And Judge Childers, who just retired, I think wisely said we're beginning to be overwhelmed with orders of protection. So jurisdiction was given to the Judicial Commissioners to handle that.
Yeah, and I think it works well because it doesn't clog the dockets.
Sure.
You know? So as far as on some of the other criminal matters you see, any advice on those?
Absolutely. Like I said, I think what clogs our docket and the criminal court dockets is these driving with license suspended, revoked, or canceled cases. There are ways for people to get their license back even if they can't afford to pay off all their fines up front. They can go to 201 Poplar and determine how to get their license back. There's a class that Shelby County offers on how to get your license back. Driving with license it shouldn't be a problem because people they have the resources to get their license back. Well, they may not have the money, but there are places that will help them get their license back. As far as the assault and marijuana charges, I know we have a problem in Shelby County with assault, and I don't know the answer. You just hope that people stop offending, and violent offenses are the worst, in my opinion. But judges have to be cognizant that someone is presumed innocent until they're proven guilty, and that some charges are false as far as violence charges. But also, domestic violence goes unreported a lot of the time. So I think the unreported cases are probably happen more often than the false accusations.
Yeah, I would say so.
And so I don't know. As far as the driving with license suspended, revoked, or canceled cases, I would say do everything you can to get your license back. And as far as the drug and assault charges, I don't have any advice for people that would perpetrate those crimes except for don't do them.
Yeah, I would say to the assault folks the same thing I say to my 5-year-old: just keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your hands to yourself.
You know,
that sounds like a good legal mantra to live by.
It is. Wait, thanks for being on the show. Our time's up for this edition of Law Talk, and I'd like to thank our guest for taking time out of his busy schedule and being with us and sharing his thoughts and insights. If you'd like more information about Law Talk or any other program on Germantown Municipal Television, please refer to our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to join us next month for more legal topics. Until then, I'm Vince Perryman, and thank you for watching.
Thanks, Vince.